YouTube, what is up? We are back with another day. We got some snatches, we got some upper body, and basically we are treating today as a flush out. We're just getting back from Vegas. We just landed. As soon as we landed, I had to Uber to our gym session in the morning. I had to coach a gym session. Now we're hitting this session here, lifting. We're in pretty rough shape sleep-wise. To bump all of our flights back because we kept winning softball games, which was a good thing for the Vegas World Tournament. Ended up taking 4th place, which was dope, higher than expected for sure. Swing was feeling dialed, 19 for 23 on the weekend. Starting the weekend off was pretty rough shape. We had a Millennium concert the day before our first game. Millennium just kept playing until like 4 in the morning, and then they put on a different person after the Vegas parties, much differently than Minnesota. It was a little different for me. I was like, I gotta go to bed. So we had the Millennium concert, then we had our first day of softball, and first day hitting outdoors again after being in a cage. Just perception was a little bit off, but once we got dialed in the swing. I'm excited for where this swing's gonna take me. But body's feeling pretty decently beat up from playing the outfield all weekend. I think most of it was the ground that we were playing on. The fields were not as nice as I thought they were gonna be. There was molehills everywhere. There was a couple times where like I stepped in a molehill, my ankle completely turned, and it would have been, if you didn't have a athletic background, you would be in some rough shape in those outfields. So some of those old dudes, if they were out there in that outfield, I feel bad for them. But the left knee's pretty beat up. The right foot is decently beat up. We had a lot of walking in Vegas. I got there Thursday morning at 8 a.m. and we couldn't get into our Airbnb until 5 p.m. So I walked around the strip from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and there's a lot of stories there. We'll get to all the stories throughout the workout, but foot was beat up from that, and just the terrible outfield we have, and the left knee is pretty swollen. So we'll take the snatch is pretty light today. I had Garage Strength and Nino Frampicino talk to me about doing some high hang snatch, no foot snatches, and working on that lockout position a lot. I just had them on the podcast. Garage Strength will drop next week. I think Nino's in a couple weeks. So pretty excited. They were awesome podcasts, but they both pointed out some of my flaws in my snatches, which I wanted them to do. And we're going to work on some technique there just because we're a little bit beat up, and we'll have a little bit of a flush out workout and talk about some of my thoughts on the whole Vegas trip and thoughts on training when you're traveling and coming back from traveling and all those things. So appreciate you guys watching. Let's get after it. Let's go. All right, so we're going to start today off with these high hang snatch cleans here, no foot. So sitting here, come in this position here, coming up. Oh, I'm trying to stay fully on that foot there. Just cleaning some things up, a little technical work. Oh, as we get the body back moving. We are in some rough shape. I think planes mess me up more than just about anything that I do training-wise, traveling. I think the different time zones, dehydration from the plane, I get pretty bad motion sickness, so typically I'll take some Dramamine and sometimes a little edible, and I think that also isn't super helpful, but it's that or I throw up on the person next to me, and that's not an exaggeration. My only 2 flights that I haven't taken an edible and Dramamine on, I threw up next to the person on me, so so it's my little hack to survive plane rides, but afterwards, feel like absolute dog water, like you're in a trance. So I just think there's something to moving the body as soon as you're off of a flight, getting a little sweat in that not a lot of athletes want to do. Same thing as like post-game when you get back. It's when you feel the most beat up, when you feel like you don't want to do anything. But I think it's probably your most productive day. Just getting a sweat in. Don't have to hit any PRs that day. But get some work in and keep grinding, keep moving. You'll feel so much better after it. One more. Wait. One thing I think we actually did a really nice job of in the college sector is like flush out workouts after a game. Again, just forcing the athletes to just move. Again, every time that I've seen an injury or just pain or soreness associated with a workout, a lot of times like people just tell you to rest, sit around, just wait for it. And so many times I've seen that be just a mental thing to where like that pain and that soreness stays with you. And you can kind of get over a lot of that when you just start moving. Again, it doesn't have to be anything super intense. I'm not saying once you sprain your ankle, just going to go send it and try and dunk on that session right away after. Walking on it, jogging on it, making it move just a little bit, DAX, like joint move type approach to things. I've seen that help athletes recover so much faster from injuries than sitting with the pain. And it's not even the sense that the injury in and of itself physiologically is getting better. I think a lot of it is the psychological component of pain, where you have the pain, then you rest with the pain and you sit with the pain and you have that kind of pain thought process associated with that body part for a longer period of time. Your body kind of gets wrapped up in that thought process, holds on to that soreness, holds on to that pain in your head. And then when you get back to your workout in, let's say, 24 to 48 hours, you have the same soreness as you were 12 hours after, right? So I think the faster you can get it moving, the faster you can get your brain associated to it's not hurt, it's not super sore, it's moving and it's feeling better, the faster you recover, the better it is for your training plan that week, your training plan for that month, and everything that you're trying to build up to. So you're feeling beat up, feeling sore, you have a lot of travel, you had a big game. I think the best thing you can do is just get a little flusher workout in, get sweating again, and give your mind something else to think about other than the beat up and soreness that I had from before. All right, let's get this. Oh, feeling better already. Let's go. Especially if you're a collegiate athlete that has a super long season, and maybe not even a collegiate athlete, maybe you're just let's say you're just a softball player, you're an adult rec softball player and you don't train during the season because you want to take your season and prioritize the season, right? You don't want to be sore for the season, you don't want to be sore for your games. And this can definitely be taken in the total meathead sense of like just train, and training is the only thing that matters, and then you are taken away from your games. But I think recently in the sports performance world, it has been too far on the other side of we got to prioritize game, we got to prioritize recovery to where you get no training done during the season, and I think that sets so many athletes back. You feel weaker, you lose a lot of body mass. By the end of the season, you're a shell of yourself. In my sophomore year of football, I remember this, like I really had this happen to me. One of the things, we went to national championship that year, so it was at 5 extra games, which I think didn't help the cause, but it was also my first year starting to play a lot more, and I really wanted to peak. It was at that moment where it's like I was right on the edge of starting, not starting, and I really had to be like perfect for every single one of my games, and it stressed me out. So I never wanted to train super hard to take away from any of my practices, to take away from any of my games. And by the end of that year, I was so beat up and I was so frail, and I just felt just not strong on the field in the national championship game when you want to feel the strongest, when you want to feel the biggest, right? And it took a long time, but probably 2 months to come back from that lack of training, lack of 15 weeks of training during the season to survive the season, right? So I think you don't have to go hard. You don't have to go crazy. You don't have to go full meathead. You don't have to take away from games. You just got to get some training done in the season. It's going to help your recovery, and by the end of the season, you're going to feel so much better, so you can hit that off season running rather than hitting that off season recovering, right? And I think that's a big component. Don't have to go super hard. Don't have to go super crazy. Doesn't have to be massive gains in your training that you make during the in-season training part of it, but doing something in season will make a massive difference compared to doing nothing in season. And I think that's something that gets messed up a lot, especially with higher level athletes that are playing and don't want to take away from that. So let's go. The thing that I don't think is truly revolutionary, or shouldn't be, at least in the strength conditioning field, is letting the game dictate your training too. Like when you're done with the game, when you're done with a big tournament, when you're done with a season, where did you feel the most beat up? Where did you feel the least capable? Where are you the most sore? What body parts didn't hold up the most? Like all these things, take note of these things. And then that's where you need to base your training around. I think a lot of times we throw out random KPIs and random things that are like general qualities, and they're not the worst thing in the world. Getting faster isn't a bad thing. Getting stronger isn't a bad thing. Getting bigger isn't a strong bad thing. Like these are all KPIs strength coaches use, and generally they work, right? But I think you specifically, and as a strength coach, ideally, if you're working with somebody, you should pay attention to the specific things that are bugging you. Like what can't you process during a game? Where are you failing in the game? Is it high pressure situations? Is it certain hits? Is it certain pass rush moves? Is it against certain opponents, right? Where do you feel beat up after the game? Is it certain body parts, right? Do we have to really focus on prehab for every single body part, or is it certain body parts we should emphasize more? So for me, after this outfield, especially in these kind of tough, super sandy outfields with the molehills everywhere, like my knee is really starting to blow up. It's my ACL knee, and it happens when it's on soft ground like that. I didn't get a lot of volume on there, but I need to pay attention a little bit more to my knee. My left glute, that used to be the issue, and I spent a lot of time prehabbing and rehabbing and building it up. Held up perfectly fine this entire tournament, which was cool to see. Like the work that I put in, I let the game dictate the issue in my training leading up to it because I knew it was a problem. I attacked that problem, and now it's not an issue when I play, and I have no soreness there. But now my left knee, right, and my right foot. These are two things that are very trainable, and I can use the data points of the game to dictate the training rather than just focus on random KPIs during training. So again, I don't think it's something super revolutionary, but I don't think it's talked about enough of just letting the game dictate your training rather than letting training dictate training. There's nothing necessarily negative. You're probably still hitting a lot of the components you want to hit in training. I just think a lot of coaches stress themselves out over these random KPIs rather than just paying attention to KPIs in the game and then actually attacking those weaknesses. And you're still hitting your general qualities. You're still doing all the general qualities there, but your specific stuff that a lot of these coaches stress out about and a lot of athletes stress out about can be simplified by where did you struggle in game and where you beat up in game, and let's go build those body parts. And I think you get a lot more out of your training doing that, and it's a lot quicker and it's a lot more individualized in the sense of it's actually things that you struggle with and actually things that can improve your game than stressing out over random FMS scores, right? So let's keep ripping. Let's go. And this is probably where I'll get a little bit of hate from the SNC science-based field, but my day of zero, like what would a day of zero look like the day after a game? The start of the week for you, what would that look like? And obviously a lot of that's dictated off when's your next game and all of that stuff, what your whole training week looks like. When you're just done with a game, I honestly think one of the best things you can do is just move. And a lot of times like the running, jogging, biking, that gets made fun of as like meathead approach to fitness and sports performance, and something that I like make fun of for the conditioning aspect. It's actually pretty good for a recovery day. Like if you're just jogging on a field, get some barefoot jogs in, get some little bit of tempo runs in, maybe you're just on a bike if you don't want to get the beat up on the turf running again. But honestly, I haven't really had a ton of issues with athletes when they're barefoot and they're just running and they're doing like 50 to 60%. But you do that for 10 to 20-ish minutes, just jogging back and forth, doing some tempo runs, just getting the body moving. I'd say 99% of athletes feel much better after that, getting the blood flow throughout the body, feeling good going into a lift. So that would be the first thing I'd do. I know it's the meathead way to do it, but honestly, I've had a lot of great result with it for myself and with a lot of my athletes. And it's something that I think can get outsmarted a little bit because the science doesn't match up, the conditioning piece. They like wrap up a conditioning piece with a recovery piece, right? I don't use those tempo runs to condition the athletes post game. I think conditioning the athletes is stupid post game, right? Like I don't think there's a purpose there. But if it gets them feeling better and it helps them recover, I'm going to go do that, right? So just because one exercise, a tempo run, is used for conditioning doesn't mean that's the only benefit of the exercise. As long as you know and understand the benefit of that exercise and why you're using it, you can use it for a multitude of different reasons. So tempo runs, bike, even a walk for 30 minutes post game, amazing. Then I'll get into some super simple, lighter in quotations, lower body lift just to get that done for the week. We do like probably max of 3 to 5-ish reps. 5 would be pushing it just because a lot of athletes don't like the bar on their back for that long. But let's go 3 rep squat, and we're just gonna go super light, probably like 70, 80%, get them through the range of motion. Then we're gonna hit an upper body pumper, and then we'll finish with some isometrics and armor building in areas that they're struggling with. So for my knee today, I'll hit like a 2-minute lunge iso. We'll hit some hip stuff to get out of that. Maybe an athlete with a shoulder will hit some hangs, a deep push-up range of motion ISO, so they leave feeling better than they came in. But again, I think a lot of times we can outsmart ourselves with the tools that we have access to and the results that we're seeing. When I have my athletes jog and do a little bit of tempo runs post-game, they feel better. We're able to get a better lift in that day. And it just sets the week up on a much better note than if we had skipped that and had approached it in the smart way in quotations and rest and recovered. So that's just my kind of approach to it. Today, we're gonna hit some snatches and upper body and just get a little pump in. So that's another way to do it as well. Let's go. Let's go. Woo, get a little sweat on, feels nice. And if you're super against the running aspect of it before you go lift, and that doesn't make sense in your head and it's too meatheadish for you, another really simple way to do it, and if you have enough resources and a smaller group of athletes, play spike ball with your athletes. Play a super simple game where there's not a ton of massive change of directions. I don't really like ultimate or handball after it because I think the athletes, they can't really turn it down too much and then it gets a little bit too aggressive day one after. But play spike ball, play a super low impact game where they're engaged and they're moving again for 30 minutes. That's a another really beautiful one, especially after a harder game. The more you can gamify things, the better. So that's a super simple solution there. This will be our last set here with the overhead squats. Then we'll hit like 3-ish sets with the high hang, no foot snatch, and then we'll start benching. Let's go. Let's go. Hit one more set with the overhead squats because I forgot to record on the iPhone. I got to make a post about end of 0 training days. So we're gonna do one more set there and then probably 2 sets of just the regular snatches by themselves. If it's feeling really good, we'll keep cranking. I don't think it's gonna feel super good today, not gonna lie. Definitely building up a little bit slower than I normally would. I like doing that on days when I'm beat up. Just warm up super slow. If it really starts to open up towards the end, that's great, and we hit a PR. I found that when I make high jumps on beat up days, it doesn't work as well. And if I don't hit a PR that day and it's a day that's not cooking, then I got a shitload volume done that day in my warm-up sets. And that's a win too, right? So like not every day it needs to be a weight on the bar PR and be a volume win and just a work day, right? So let's go. Let's go. Resisting all the meat in me to just keep adding more weight too. But again, the focus today is to get that high leg snatch in that locked out position. And I'm already starting to catch it bent. So I'm gonna go a little bit slower, probably end at 210s here, just to make sure I get that locked out position dialed in and ripping. So let's go. Oh, that was good. Oh, that's good. Last one. Oh, that was really good. Let's go. One more set there. Last set here. We'll end on a win. After we get this keep things clean, that's another thing that I like to do in season. Just make sure the athletes get a win. I don't need them losing at all during the season. I don't need them feeling bad about their bodies at all during the season. So if I'm programming RPEs or percentage-wise, it's going to be much less than they think they can do. So everything's clean, everything's fast, everything's explosive again. I think there's a big psychological component in how you feel that kind of massively outweighs the physiological components that so many coaches talk about. The psychological isn't there, the physiological doesn't matter. All right, so let's go. Last one is not clean. Scraping up the thighs a little bit, losing some hair that I don't have. All right, let's get the bench press. Let's go. All right, so after the snatches, we're just gonna build up to a pretty quick 1 rep max here. We got 15 minutes left before we gotta go train these baseball idiots. So hit a 1 rep max here. We'll hit some pump for the upper body, arms or moms, and then some move your joints for the lower body and get out of here feeling good. Let's go. All right, couple quick signals here. Let's go.